What are some of those misperceptions?
The biggest one is that people who have a rudimentary understanding of what is happening there use this word communism to infer a lot of other things. And one of the things that's inferred by communism is top-down state-run system. And they think of Russia, and they assume, well, that'll always lead to bad capital allocation, no innovation, because they have this picture in their mind of these brick buildings, like with snow all around them and not much happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality there is just far, far different from.
朋友们好，今天阿星给大家带来一个非常有意思的视角。咱们经常在新闻里看到，美国那些政客动不动就拿冷战那一套来对付中国。在他们那贫乏的想象力里，一提到中国，脑子里浮现的画面永远是几十年前苏联那种死气沉沉的砖楼、僵化的计划经济，以及一群毫无创新能力的机器人。但就在最近，美国硅谷的一位顶级大佬亲自跑来中国待了10天，从高铁坐到深圳的一夜城，再到参观了雷军的小米超级工厂。回国后，他在一档播客里彻底破防了。他当着所有美国人的面，狠狠地打碎了华盛顿政客们的刻板印象，中国根本不是你们想象中的苏联。他甚至惊呼，中国不仅有国家级的战略规划，更有一种连硅谷都感到害怕的超残酷的内部竞争机制。这位美国大佬究竟在中国看到了什么不可思议的工业奇迹？中国到底是怎么把集中力量和市场搏杀玩得炉火纯青的？来听听来自美国科技圈最真实的中国震撼。
Let's move on to big topic, big country, China. You spent 10 days there over the past summer. What was your experience? What did you see? What made an impression? What did you do?
I'd been about 6 times before, so this is like my 7th trip. One thing that was different, my daughter is an Asian studies major, as you were.
Yeah.
And she spent the summer in Hong Kong. So we picked her up and then we toured 6 cities in 10 days. And my objective with this trip, in the past trips, it was mostly just to meet with entrepreneurs and founders and mutual sharing of information, that kind of thing. This time I was more interested in just kind of being eyes wide open and learning. And so we took 2 of the high-speed trains, just as an experience set. I got a tour of the Xiaomi factory with their new car, the SU7, and was trying to get a feel for what's kind of most recent there. And we, went to Shenzhen, overnight city, which has gone from, I think, less than 100,000 people in 1980 to 20 million people, just to see the scale and scope of the whole thing. There's a lot of rhetoric in the U.S. about what is or isn't happening in China. And I just wanted to have a better feel for it. And we're making policy decisions that are going to impact, the global footprint. And God forbid, we end up in a World War III kind of situation. So anyway, I just wanted a better understanding. I was aided by the fact that Dan Wong shared his book Breakneck with me right before I left. And I read it while I was there, which was interesting. And then it came out, and of course, it ended up on the bestseller list. But I think China's misperceived in a lot of ways.
What are some of those misperceptions?
The biggest one is that people who have a rudimentary understanding of what is happening there use this word communism to infer a lot of other things. And one of the things that's inferred by communism is top-down state-run system. And they think of Russia, and they assume, well, that'll always lead to bad capital allocation, no innovation, because they have this picture in their mind of these brick buildings, like with snow all around them and not much happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality there is just far, far different from that. I think Dan Wong did a great job of explaining how the country puts out this 5-year plan, but then the provinces, which they're a lot bigger than a U.S. state, but they're the equivalent, like it's how the country's segmented. They compete with each other. And the effective mayor of the province, if he does well, has a chance to move up in the system, which is not a reality in the U.S. system. But what that leads to is just a massive amount of competition.
What are the metrics by which they're being judged? Do you have any idea on a province level? Is it some equivalent of GDP? It's not the right term, but
I'm guessing probably.
Yeah.
Like we could go talk to AI and get a better answer than I have right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think that's part of it. Prosperity, employment, those kind of things. By the way, this provincial competition has also led to overbuild of buildings. Like it's not always positive, bridges that aren't used.
Ghost cities.
Ghost cities, yes. But you end up with hyper competition. So I think the thing that a lot of people in Silicon Valley love about capitalism is this notion of the invisible hand and competition that leads to innovation and best practice, and the winners rise up and they're better for it. That is happening there. And if you read about the solar industry or the EV industry or now the robotics industry, they have hundreds of different companies competing in these fields. And it's brutal competition. And as a result of that, they're ending up with very innovative companies, which, once again, I think people wouldn't prescribe to being possible in a communist, world, and remarkable execution from an industrial standpoint. So the price points of the products that will be sold around the globe are well below anything that could be done in the U.S.
How do you go about getting a tour of a Xiaomi factory? I would think that they would be very closed about that. What's in it for them, and how do they?
I don't know if you saw this going around the internet yesterday, but they shipped a car to this YouTuber.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
Which
Absolutely.
is brilliant. And he did like a 15. That's the SU7. That's the factory I went to. As I mentioned, I'd been there before. So I met Lei Jun, who's the founder of Xiaomi, in 2005 when he was chairman of Joyo, which was a e-commerce company that Amazon bought. So he's been around a while.
Yeah.
He has evolved into the best thing I could say is like he's the Steve Jobs of China right now. When he quit doing Joyo and he had this other company as well, he declared 10 years ago he was going to build a smartphone. Just out of the blue, I'm going to build a smartphone. He didn't have any smartphone experience, but Xiaomi is now the third largest manufacturer of handsets in the globe. And about 4 or 5 years ago, at about the exact same time Apple hinted they were interested in building a car, he said, I'm going to build a car.
Well, not only did he say, I'm going to build a car, but that was a response to sanctions, right? It was an emergency. As I listened to I listened to the translation of, even though my Chinese is decent, but it's not as good as it once was, I think it was 2024.
That's it.
Company-wide address where he talked about the sanctions coming in, saying, what if we couldn't make phones? What would we do?
That talk is unbelievable, and it's translated on YouTube, and I would encourage people to watch from about minute 30 to about an hour 15, which is where he talks about his process for designing the car. I don't know if you saw that part.
Yeah, I did.
But it's crazy. He says he put a note on any car in his parking lot that he had never drove, and he would ask each employee to give him 3 positives, 3 negatives, and loan him the car. He said he drove 200 of his employees' cars. When you hear that kind of stuff, you're like, wow, I wonder if anyone at Apple did that. I mean, it's just such a kind of bottom up, just ground truth way to start the process. But even still, even if you did that, like a bunch of people could do that, how do you have the wherewithal to build a factory? He'd never built a factory before. I've been in other car factories here in the U.S. It was phenomenal. Anyway, back to your question, why I could get in is I knew Lei Jun from way back.
What does the process look like? Are there a bunch of clearances and you have to get the okay from the provincial?
I don't think we went through the whole factory, but no. I mean, they're a public company. I think they're interested in
the exposure,
being well understood.
Yeah.
Which I think hints at why they enabled this. I think they had to send a car to this guy, the YouTuber.
Yeah.
And by the way, the president of Ford went over there about 6 months before I did, went on the same tour. So they let him go there. And he had an SU7 shipped to Michigan, and he drove it for several weeks. And he's talked about how incredible it is.
美国人总以为中国就是当年的苏联，在华盛顿那些冷战活化石的脑子里，只要是计划体制，就必然意味着资本错配，必然意味着没有创新，大家都在死气沉沉的砖楼里混日子。但事实呢？中国早就把这套老黄历给撕了个粉碎。阿星给大家拆解一下，中国真正的底层密码是什么？正如视频里提到的，我们确实有5年规划，这叫集中力量办大事，也就是国家给你指出大方向，新能源、半导体、人工智能。但是，一旦方向定了，在这个赛道里跑的可不是温室里的花朵，而是几百上千家像狼一样的企业，这就叫最残酷的市场搏杀。而且，我们不光企业卷，咱们的各个省份、各个城市也在疯狂地卷。为了抢大项目，为了 GDP， 为了就业率，各地政府都在拼营商环境，拼政策扶持。这种为了发展而产生的内部良性竞争，美国那种松散的联邦制根本想象不到。我们既有苏联那种长远战略的定盘星，又拥有比硅谷还要惨烈、还要高效的市场绞肉机。那些在血海里杀出来的企业，比如视频里提到的比亚迪、小米，他们不仅技术过硬，更拥有恐怖的执行力和成本控制能力。你看雷军造车，3年时间从零开始，他跑到停车场试驾了200辆员工的车，去抠每一个细节。这种自下而上的扎根现实的拼命精神，美国那些坐在华尔街写 PPT 的高管们，有几个能做到？连福特汽车的总裁都要大老远跑去小米工厂参观，还要运一辆 SU7 回美国去拆解研究。这说明什么？ 说明在真正的制造业圈子里，明白人都知道中国海啸已经势不可挡了。但是最讽刺的一幕在哪儿呢？当美国的企业家、汽车巨头都在拼命想搞懂中国，向中国学习的时候，华盛顿的政客们在干嘛？他们在忙着建高墙，忙着加关税，忙着把 TikTok 赶出去，忙着把中国的电动车拒之门外。他们以为把门关上就能保住自己世界第一的宝座。他们还在用几十年前对付苏联的冷战思维去对付一个全方位超越他们的新型工业巨兽。这叫什么？这叫刻舟求剑，掩耳盗铃。一个曾经号称自由市场、包容创新的灯塔国，现在却要靠闭关锁国来维持自尊，这本身就是帝国走向黄昏的最明确信号。所以，让那些带着偏见的西方媒体继续做他们死气沉沉的苏联梦吧。等他们梦醒的时候，他们会发现自己早已被这辆飞驰的中国列车远远地甩在了历史的站台上。好了，今天茶水间的深度复盘就到这里。你觉得美国能通过闭关锁国挡住中国制造的洪流吗？欢迎在评论区留下你的犀利见解。别忘了点赞、订阅阿欣的茶水间，让我们一起看透这大变局的底牌。下期再见。